Boa tarde, bem-vindos, obrigado pela presença. Estamos muito felizes mesmo de receber aqui o Alain Lahana, um dos maiores, eu acho, ator da música da França, eu acho um dos maiores da Europa. Ele está aqui do meu lado, é uma grande honra mesmo de receber ele. A verdade é uma situação meio complicada de receber uma pessoa dessa, porque vocês vão entender aos poucos que, a verdade, sem ele saber, ele representa, a verdade, uma época da música muito, muito grande, e ele viveu todos esses anos conhecendo as pessoas, personagens, fazendo coisas que, para a gente, para a nossa geração, são referência mesmo e, de vez em quando, a razão por que a gente está fazendo o que a gente está fazendo hoje. E vocês também, eu acredito. Então, só para apresentar ele da forma mais simples possível, que vai ser difícil, ele trabalhou como promotor, agente de show, 15 anos com o Depeche Mode, na França, Pogues, 15 anos com o Cool and the Gang, 10 anos com o Sade, 20 anos com o Phil Collins, 40 anos quase com o Iggy Pop, até hoje, Patti Smith, 20 anos, R.E.M., Ramones, Tears for Fears, Simple Mind, David Bowie, etc, 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 e vai até os Spice Girls, para quem gosta de Spice Girls, tem até Spice Girls. Ele estava no início do movimento punk na França, fez shows com Police, fez shows com os Ramones, fez shows... Sex Pistols, você fez?
I did Sex Pistols, I did the first Reformation, but I did 3 tours with Public Image.
O Peel, o PIL. Yeah. E Richie Havens, Susan Vega, etc, etc, etc. Quer dizer, chegou uma época que o Alain representava 10% do mercado de show na França. É verdade isso, não?
It was.
Então,
and I must add, with all what he said, I'm only 350 years old.
Então, Alain, deixa eu começar assim, então. Eu acho que a gente vai ter que voltar para o início da tua vida, que para você pode ser difícil se lembrar de umas coisas, mas para a gente aqui eu acho que é muito importante, porque as pessoas que estão aqui, e eu pessoalmente, eu acho que a gente sonha de ser, gostaríamos de ser a pessoa que você era nessa época, e que você foi, e que você se tornou. Então, para a gente é muito importante, eu acho, entender todo esse processo que você teve, as histórias que aconteceram com você, os movimentos musicais que rolaram, políticos também, para a gente entender um pouquinho, através da tua história, eu acho, toda essa história dos anos 70, 80, e que eu acho extremamente interessante também, é que, através da história do Alain, eu acho que a gente entende também as mutações e as mudanças que rolaram na indústria musical, ou na construção de uma indústria musical, e na relação entre artistas, fã e empresário, não?
Well, one thing first I'd like to say is that when I started, it wasn't a music industry. It was something handmade. We weren't that many. The story was just to be written. There was no real rule. You didn't need to have a big corporation to promote, to get in touch with his artists. It wasn't down to money. It was just you fancy it, you like it, it talks to you, you like to share it with people, then it's like some political involvement. And I started a bit after Woodstock and all these kind of things, when it was a kind of freedom which was requested. And I worked mainly on the alternative scene at the time, because punk didn't really exist.
It was like 74, 73?
Yeah, I started really around 74. And the first punk festival at Mont-de-Marsan was 76. And 77, we had this thing where we had the Clash, the Police, the Damned, and all these bands who were put on the same bill for the first time ever, because at that time, all the punk music was forbidden, couldn't perform in England because everything was forbidden to do. And it was a solution for them, was to go outside UK, where some people were mad enough to invite them.
French people?
Yeah. When we did the first Mont de Marsan festival, the total budget for the billing was, I think it was 30,000 francs, so we're talking $5,000 for the whole bill. We had 20 bands. They were traveling all from UK, everybody in the same bus. There was one hotel. Bands were kicking off the other people who were in the room, and it was like this. There was no money thing, and it was really a total different thing than what we can see today, where it's an industry, which means it's a total, you go through lots of people, lots of in-betweens, instead of going direct to the artist. I had the luck to be here when you could talk to the artist was making the decision, and he had people around him to back him up to do it, and there was no plan, no real plan. If you had someone involved and keen about what you were, what the artist was going to do, you could be on board.
It's amazing because we are talking here all the conference about strategy, digital markets, the best timing to release an album. That time was different, right?
Yeah, I can tell you, yeah, because it was a different time. The music wasn't at the same level at all. A record was, I remember I used to go to the record store to wait for the record I wanted for a few days, and when I was listening to a vinyl, I could tell you every credit of every photo because I was listening, looking at everything, and it's now, you don't listen to the music in the same way. And that's a very important thing, because a concert was an event where the audience was getting ready to go months in advance and thinking, this is the day, I'm going to play the record 20 times, 30 times and go to the concert because someone is able to get this act coming to my town. I don't want to miss it.
Let me go back to understand better you, actually. Alain, mother. So you were born in Tunisia?
Yeah.
And when there's independence in Tunisia, it's like 50-something, 55, 56?
No, in 61, we were all thrown out.
So you went to France?
Yeah,
as an immigrant?
Yeah, I followed my father. I was 4 years old. So
you were in Toulouse?
I had no much alternative, and I was in Toulouse, and I lived there, and it's a nice city in south of France, and that was it. I started getting involved with local acts because my brother was trying to be a drummer. After he missed completely and he became a famous scientist and worked on some research against cancer and all this. But at the start it was just, we liked the things, we liked to see the scene which was starting.
And at that time it was like, it was bowls, bands in bowls, like it was what kind of bands?
Well, at the time when I was at school, it was after May '68, which in France was kind of close to revolution, let's say. And at school, we had auditions every day where we could choose the record at the room to play the records. And the records at the time were the new Jimi Hendrix, were Creedence Clearwater, were lots of acts like this, Jefferson Airplane, and all these bands.
Eu vou voltar a falar em português. Eles tocavam em Toulouse, todas essas bandas? They play in Toulouse, all these bands?
No.
Just the records?
Yeah.
Right.
We were dreaming through the records.
Oh, okay.
The scene, what was touring at the time was just the middle-of-the-road French songs. And as for us, it wasn't a thing talking to us. We tried to find our own word. And any opportunity to go against what was established was a good thing, basically. So we tried to make it live.
Então, voltando falando em português, então, tem uma época que o Alain tá adolescente, no início dos anos 70, final dos anos 60, na verdade, no sul da França, e aí ele tem um momento que eu acho que vai mudar a vida dele, que isso que ele me contou, que o encontro com Giorgio Gomelski, não? Le Réseau Zéro.
Yeah.
O que você pode falar da gente sobre isso?
Giorgio Gomelski, for the ones who don't know, I know one who knows here. For the ones who don't know, was the first manager of the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, and it's him who got a French band called Magma and got them the first international contract. And he started looking at the market, at the French market, with a different view because he wasn't French. And he said, okay, all the cultural centers, why are they just doing readings? Why are they just showing movies? Why not the music which interests the kids? And he started setting up, talking to everybody, and started setting up concerts there, and that changed the world. And then people started teaming up together, different cities together, to make it a circuit.
Mas era uma rede independente que ele criou, uma rede alternativa, isso, de show e de distribuição, distribution, shows. E como que funcionava?
Yeah, and there were, at that time, there were some mad guys, you know, because there were people, we were talking earlier on about people like Jean-François Bizot created Actuel, which was a very important magazine, and kind of nutcases who were so bright and who just wanted to make a word to fit themselves. And that's the most important thing, is that we didn't see any frontiers in anything. We thought, this is what we like, let's make it, because if we don't make it, it won't happen. So I think I see someone who agrees.
Robert here is.
We met at the time when he was managing the Flash Tones.
Flash Tones, okay. And, o que eu acho interessante mesmo nessa época, e é engraçado fazer um paralelo, eu acho, com os tempos de hoje, é que a rede alternativa que eles criaram na época era baseada em cima da autoprodução e de cada um se auto-organizava para produzir, distribuir, promover. E hoje em dia todo mundo fala de Facebook, de internet, essas coisas como uma revolução. E, na verdade, voltando nessas épocas, sem a rede de internet, dá para entender como o fundamento mesmo da indústria musical começou de uma forma totalmente independente. E você pode explicar um pouquinho para a gente o melhor como que acontecia esse...
Without the social medias, without cell phones, without emails, you know, that's a total different world. With radios not playing any of the acts you were working with at the time, you had to create the thing. That was very important.
Ele me falou também de... Eles mandavam, na verdade é uma rede que ia no país inteiro, e eles mandavam tipo material pelos trens. Eles falava qual era o vagão que ia estar o material, colocava dentro do trem e o cara na outra cidade ia pegar o material. E eles meio que criavam as revistas, e mesmo se organizavam para trazer as bandas. E tem uma coisa que é engraçada, que a relação do artista com o business era diferente, não? Não era, a relação com o dinheiro era diferente, não?
Well, I can't remember anyone at that time who was doing it for money. It was really like a political involvement. And we just thought, sorry to use the word, but we just thought we had a mission. And we tried to do it because that was a reason to wake up in the morning and go and say that what we were doing was worth it, was worth attention. And we tried, you know, it was quite difficult at the start because at the time also it was, people didn't want to pay admissions to go to concerts. Culture was supposed to be free. and accessible to everybody. So every time you were setting up an alternative concert, you had 50% of the audience breaking the doors, coming in, and you had to pay for the ones who didn't pay. So that was something, you know, really tough.
So you start to book shows at that time?
Yeah.
What kind of acts did you book?
Well, it was people such as, at the time, Kevin Coyne, Ashra Temple, Gong, all this kind of act, Magma, I don't know, I can't remember all of them. And after, there was a big change for me, which was the arrival, what was arriving with the punk music, because punk music was breaking all the rules. And so it was even more in the thing we were looking for, because all the rules, suddenly, all what things which were an objective became the enemy. And you know, it was very easy because this scene didn't exist, and the thing was just to go against everything. And so you could create anything you wanted.
E começou com Sex Pistols mesmo? Punk? Começou com Sex Pistols?
Sex Pistols, I think, were one of the first one. I didn't work with them at the time. The first concert in France is historical, although there was less than 150 people. Everybody says he was there, like at the first punk festival in Mont-de-Marsan, where there was only 600 people in the arena. You talk about it now, everybody says he was there. Well, you know, that's how legends start, you know.
Ele me contou também uma história, você me contou a história da primeira parte do Iggy Pop, do show do Iggy Pop. Com a...
Well, the first concert I did with Iggy was as local promoter, and in these days, it was very special, because can you imagine Iggy Pop was opening for his own show without, he had a towel around his head, and he played with two roadies, and the band was called Smegma. And nobody knew it was him. He played 20 minutes and then went to the dressing room. We made 2 lines of coke, and he went back on stage and did an hour set, arrived, full projector on his face, and an hour set, breathless, you know, you were just...
But why he was opening secretly for his own show?
Because at the time, we were renting mainly for this kind of concerts, we were renting city halls. And the rule with a city hall was you need to have an intermission, because the bar goes to the city.
Okay.
So if you didn't have an intermission, you were paying a fine. So to avoid paying a fine, you put an opening act. We didn't have an opening act. He wanted the money. He went on stage and did it.
And nobody knew, ever?
No.
No, well, that's funny. And nas nossas conversas também, o que foi engraçado é que o Alain estava conversando sobre o que era um empresário na época, que geralmente o empresário era a namorada do cantor, que virava empresário, ou o pior músico da banda, que isso foi o meu caso, que vira empresário, e que hoje em dia a gente está num mundo muito mais formatado, não? Muito mais profissional, não? E você acha que isso melhorou ou não? Que as coisas são mais seguras hoje?
More safe, I won't really say this, because I think the main change now is that what was handmade is now a corporate and a factory job most of the time. And I'm not sure it's for the best, because you try to reproduce the model, sometimes a bit over the infinite, you know, so that's wrong. The thing is that at that time, any performance with any artist was like the last one. And
why it was the last one?
Because basically it was a question of life or death. It wasn't just a casual thing. It wasn't a job. It was to avoid doing a job, you were doing it. And that's totally different. So for me, the main change now is that industry things means The money is spent in a different way. The money is split in a different way. Most of the income goes to in-betweens instead of going to the creators. And that's a major problem to my mind. That's why I changed a bit my activity to do, again, something handmade. And that's why I stopped playing the big game. Because basically, I cannot compete with a company who would be ready to put 1 million on top of an offer for whoever you've named before, just to get 0.2% extra share on the market. I'm not in this thing at all. I'm not an industry guy. I made money. I earned it. But after. I know why I started being in the music business, and I don't want to forget it.
But você foi muito longe no music business. Você chegou a fazer show em estádio, você fez shows com David Bowie para 60 mil pessoas, você fez shows com, não sei, todas as bandas que a gente falou. Quer dizer, você chegou aí no nível mais alto possível, não? Desse business. Isso foi no final dos anos 70 até o final dos anos 90, não? Dos anos 80, desculpa. Foi 10 anos que você fez shows em estádios, os maiores shows que tinham na França, você fazia, dos maiores shows, não?
I didn't have that many stadium shows. Sorry.
You have some, right? You have some, yeah. And so you lived the 80s.
Well, the thing is that when you go on board. At one time, at one point, you just let it go and you go with the flow, with what happens. It's important to know that the first tours, for instance, I know the Ramones were a very popular band here, but the tours with the Ramones, they were playing for 500 to 1,000 people per show. They weren't a legend. They became a legend after, but it wasn't a legend. The tours with Iggy at the start, we were doing an average of 800 to 1,500 people per show. It wasn't what it's been after.
But
and being there at not the start, because he existed long before I met him. But the thing is, after on a situation, you can just evolve and try to see what could be next, and be surprised also by what the artist is able to deliver and to unite the troops behind him.
E você chegou a vivenciar uma banda que começou uma turnê? Você chegou a vivenciar uma banda que começou uma turnê com um público muito pequeno e no meio da turnê começou a ficar gigante?
Oh yeah. I had examples. Well, that's early 80s. For instance, when Tears for Fears started exploding, we booked the dates, the tour, and we had to change. When we put on sale, they were in a 1,000 capacity. When the concert happened, it was 10,000. We changed the venue 4 times, 5 times. And after a certain limit, we said, let's stop it because maybe it's going to be too much. They're not ready for this. And lots of acts weren't ready to go at this speed. It's what I call the unlimited income. You will sell. At that time, you could sell as many tickets as you could print. You just had to adapt to follow the thing and just to be able to stop at the right time. With bands like Depeche Mode, we were doing an average of 4 times 17,000 in Paris every year, plus provinces, which means 15 concerts in an average of 6 to 10,000, which were sold out in advance with kids around 12, 13, 14 years old who were going to their first concert. We had concerts at the time. Security was a different thing. We had, I remember one concert in Nantes where people were pushing too much that the stage went up, pushed by the crash barriers. And we had about 1,000 people with a doctor and all this on the side, collapsing, first concert, first joint, not eating, coming very early, not to miss the opening of a door, you know, all these kind of things with people leaving their families to follow the tour. It was a totally different thing.
So good.
And that's not so long ago. With Depeche, it was what, talking about, what, 20 years ago, 15 years ago even.
E eu acho também que você também desenvolveu um tipo de promotor assim, de show. Você tomava muito cuidado das bandas. Você fazia tudo que o artista pedia.
Yeah, but the thing for me is I always consider that having an artist is like having your best friend for dinner. You don't want to give him food on the floor. You want him to be comfortable, you want him to be cool, and you want him, if you welcome him in the right way and put the right surrounding, you'll have the best performance possible. That's it. So I think that's just a professional attitude also.
But you went very far. What did you do for an artist, for example? Do you have an example of something really crazy you did for an artist?
Well, I don't know. Tell me examples. I told you the other day, because like this for me. Well, David was a special relationship because I started with David when he did the first time Tin Machine, and it was easy. It was the first day. It was a 1,200 capacity where we didn't announce David Bowie. We just announced Tin Machine when everybody was looking for Bowie. And with a cheap ticket price, with an opening act, a local opening act, who didn't have any records then. And right after, we went for the Sound Vision tour, which was the tour when David said, "I'm going to play my hits for the last time."
For the last time, yeah.
So that was something quite important. And after this, well, we had a couple of conversations, and for him, for instance, when we did the Sound Vision tour, I just happened at that week, that period, to have 2 weeks basically at Bercy, which is the biggest hall in Paris, 17,000. I had, I think it was 4 nights with Phil Collins, 2 nights with David, then I had 1 with Tears for Fears, and after I had 4 with Depeche Mode. So a huge growth in a very short gap of time, so we could set up everything in the venue in a very cool way. And for David, a fan of him, who was doing garden decoration, told me, "I'd like to meet him, and I'll do whatever you tell me." And I said, "Okay, put nice decoration in the dressing room." And we had the Japanese garden with fountains in his room. When David arrived, he said, "Well, fuck me," you know. And it was really funny. We started chatting and all this. And that's after, in some conversation, that he told me he wanted to find a cool place to rehearse for the next Tin Machine thing. And I told him, "Well, you could always come at home." And he came to my place in Saint Malo and rehearsed the second Tin Machine in Saint Malo for 3 weeks, and did a secret gig for 300 people, which we couldn't even fill the hall with 300 people because nobody thought it was true. Nobody thought that David Bowie could play in a little city like this, that he'd been staying there for 3 weeks. Every day he was there, walking with no bodyguard, reading his paper, having his coffee and all this. And when we did the concert, he told me the day before, "I'd like to do a show, you know." And I said, "Okay, cool, let's do it tomorrow." And he said, "We do it for free. We put just a box, and whatever we collect, we give it to buy, how do you call, a pinball thing to the kids nearby." And that's what we did, except people just put very little money, which was shocking for me. I had to put some money so we could buy the pinball, because I couldn't tell him, "No, we just got a couple of coins and it's ridiculous. We cannot even buy them a drink," you know. But, you know, and it was a thing which was decided with him in a minute. You know, I just happened to say, "Yeah, I've got we could do it there, and decide, okay, cool. The following day, I had a guy calling me, his agent, to say, have you seen David lately? I said, yeah, yesterday. He said, so he asked me to book this. And I said, okay, cool, let's do it. And it happened to me a few times with him on Earthlink, for instance, when we had a stadium with him in Paris, and I went to chat with him, and I said, this is a very cool album. I think you're reaching a new audience with this one, and it's a shame you're just doing one show. And he said, I've got a week off. Why don't you set up a couple of shows in some alternative cities? And we went for a little tour in alternative cities, and it was good fun. And his agent called me and said, you saw David? Yeah. Okay, you've got a week, it's straight percentage, no guarantee, and this is the period. And now talking about this sounds weird, but it wasn't, I didn't have to go through 20 people, 15 lawyers and everything to have a chat with him. I just opened his mouth, and we were just chatting, like I'm chatting with you, and making a decision straight away without going for, is it right for my image? Should I do this or not? No, I want to do it. Let's do it.
It's crazy. So, voltando na tua vida, your life, so you went through some bankruptcy too? You went.
Yeah. I did 3 bankruptcy in my life.
That's great.
3, and the last one was the best one. It was 6 million francs.
It's important to have.
And I paid it back in 6 months.
Okay. So it was not a real bankruptcy.
It was a real bankruptcy. Right. I paid all the people, all the providers, 6 months after, because that's when I had this series of bursary, and I made. I cannot say the amounts; it's too much. But the amount I made in 1 month was just mad.
So after that. Depois disso, você foi trabalhar em produções gigantes, como o bicentenário da Revolução Francesa, que foi feito pelo Jean-Paul Goudin, foi um evento gigante, o centenário da Torre Eiffel também. Você abandonou trabalhar com artista durante uns 10 anos, é isso? Isso é nos anos 90, não?
Yeah. That was when I was. That was my great bankruptcy. So I thought I quit rock and roll. And I thought I'll work only on big events, and I had the opportunity to be called because I've done also stage management in my life. So I had the opportunity to work on the centenary of the Eiffel Tower and bicentenary of the Revolution, and that's when I was working there with Jean-Paul Goudin. That's when I was working there that I knew I was bankrupt and my flat was going to go away. And I thought I quit. So I called my best friend in the music business at the time, John Giddings, with whom I started in the late 70s with the Ramones, who was the agent of David Bowie, of Phil Collins, of Iggy Pop, and who became now one of the biggest worldwide agents. It's him who books all the Live Nation tours in Europe. It's him who looks after U2, Celine Dion, and Lady Gaga, whoever you can think about.
Live Nation guy.
Yeah, and it's external to the company. He's the booker, he's got his own company, and he books for them.
Wow. That's a good CV.
And it's, yeah.
So, uma coisa muito louca também, eu acho que quando você volta depois a trabalhar com artista, você decide trabalhar com artistas novos.
Yeah, that was a bit later in schedule, but I decided after a while that when I saw the thing being too much corporate and too much big companies, I thought this is not what I want to do, but it's okay, I'm ready to play a bit of a game, but I need a reason to go, to wake up and to go and work. And my thing was then to work only with, mainly with new artists who were on their first record, because I wanted to find the primal emotion, the primal scream, and just have, instead of having people who were not even excited about selling out big places and making tons of money, I wanted to have people with glittering eyes thinking, oh shit, that's my first review, that's my first concert, that's my first sellout, that's my first record, that's my... I wanted everything to be the first. And
What the artist? Which name? You have names? The artist,
well, I started then with this young artist whose name is Ayo, and it was quite funny because, well, I gave her money to pay her rent, I opened a bank account, and I gave her money not to play any shows for a couple of months. I gave a demo to a friend who's got a big TV program. He liked her, he put her on TV, and when it was broadcasted, 2 weeks later, we had a gold record. 6 months later, we were over 1 million record. So I thought that's very cool to do development.
you have to dump her because she's not you anymore. You have to.
No. I did 7 years with her, but it was, I thought that's really cool. I thought starting careers was like this. It wasn't exactly, but it was a good example to start. And after it's through Ayo that I met Fefe. So told me, you should check this guy. And I say, I'm not coming from hip-hop, I'm more with a rock background. I don't know if I can work on an act like this. So I met him, and I thought he wasn't just hip-hop, he was just an artist. And I tried to push him more on something closer to a singer than to a rap artist. Well, we did what we did, and in France we had the gold record, lots of concerts, because he's a killer live. For me, it's comparable to an Iggy Pop in another kind of music. He's a guy who's ready to die on stage. He's a guy who's ready to do every concert like if it was the last one. And that's what I like, and that's also what I liked at that time, in that time when doing a concert. Every concert was a different concert. You weren't doing the same concert every night.
But you keep doing shows for booking shows for Iggy Pop and Patti Smith now.
But Iggy and Patti, it's a kind of different story, because Iggy now, it's been over 40 years. I even produced a record with him, which could surprise you if you hear it. We did a crooner album in French. Iggy covering French songs. I sent him songs, and he recorded it at home, then sent it to musicians, they did the music, then we did the record, I think I've got it here, and released it in a different way, through a different kind of... Do I have it? I've got so many, I don't know. Yeah, that's it. So that's the record I did with him, covering French songs, and we sold twice more than what EMI sold at the time with the previous album, just because we went on a different kind of promotion, and didn't work at all the same way. I worked with a sales site who sold 15,000 in the first 72 hours. Then I made a deal with Fnac, who bought me 10,000 records.
Did you do no return? Yeah.
I did the distribution, yeah. With no return, just work the market in a different way. I think it's interesting to see how a crisis happens, and when it's an industrial crisis, I think it's important to just check it out completely and see what went wrong. So after my analysis, it's just my analysis, but I thought, let's do it in a different way. If I fail, I fail. It's my money. I take the responsibility. It's my own risks. But let's try to do it in a different way. Instead of telling you should do that, you should do it, I think I prefer doing it, and then people say, oh, that was cool, or don't say anything about it.
But tell us that you have some failure too. Artists that didn't work because...
Oh, yeah. Failure is part of life for everybody.
So you had some new artists that didn't make it?
Oh, yeah. Lots.
Okay. That's nice to know. That's nice. So that's it, I think, for your life. I don't know. You have a company called Rosebud, right? You had
Yeah, that was my first company after we did Mont-de-Marsan. Well, I worked with a few French artists, but that was the first company with whom I worked on international acts. And that's the first company which arrived after the launch of punk. With them, we were doing tours with bands such as the Fleshtones, such as Steel Pulse, such as, well, Pete Tosh at the time, Dire Straits, who were starting, but weren't expected to be like this. Jiggles Band, The Clash, all this kind of band. The Stranglers, Iggy, and all this. That was.
So you have a company that goes Bros, but you have no regrets of stuff you didn't did for those time.
Well,
you did everything you wanted to do.
I don't think I did everything I want. I don't think anybody does everything he wants. I think what I did, I'm quite proud of it. Looking backward, I never thought when I was 17 that 40 years later I'll be here talking about what I did. I didn't think it was a career plan, and it just happened to be my life. Mm-hmm. So I don't look back too much. I came because Fabi kindly invited me, but I'm not used to this kind of thing, like the speed meetings like I did for 2 days. I've never done this before, you know, so I thought...
This interview is the first time too?
Yeah, I've never done this before.
Wow.
No, and I've never been asked maybe, or I'd never thought...
But you are writing...
My thing is not to be anyway on the stage.
Yeah, but
my thing is to be behind the stage.
Yeah. mine too. They are writing a book about David Bowie that you're taking part of, right?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm working with one of his biographs because the exhibition you had in Sao Paulo last year, David Bowie is going to be in Paris next March. And as when I was working with him, I did 52 concerts. Now I know the figure because I'm just writing the thing. I did 52 concerts excluding the promotion with him, and he did a couple of albums in France. The second Tin Machine was created basically in France. So there is a special story with France, and most of the showcases, the things which normally are done as private thing, instead of doing them private, the conversation with him made them public, because instead of doing a show just to be filmed, we did it for an audience, and it was filmed. So that was a different thing, and we made special way to sell the tickets. So it was an event to sell 1,000 tickets on the day of the show, only at the venue, with all the TV channels being there to see who is the first one to buy the ticket, see when the curtain closes, who is the one who's just behind the curtain, and all this kind of thing, with the queues going 200 meters outside the venue and all this. It was a different thing.
Gente, eu poderia ficar conversando dias com ele. Então, se alguém tem uma pergunta ou quer perguntar uma coisa, se sente à vontade. Ninguém inspirado? Tá, então, deixa eu perguntar. Quando você olha para a indústria musical de hoje, com essas redes sociais, internet, social network, everything, when you look at this, do you have like what do you think what's happening now?
Well, I think it's cool. There are lots of artists with whom I work, and my main job is to work all the social networks. That's a different activity, but I find it quite interesting. But it's just got to be a way to have something concrete happening. I think there are lots of bands just existing on the networks and not existing in real life. And live work is a very important thing, and sometimes it's forgotten.
Yeah, that's good. The great thing. Tem uma pergunta aí.
Hey, hi, my name is Marcelo. I work with music production, and I'm also an artist. I would like to ask you, in that change that the music market is suffering from the past through now, how would you see the art itself? How do you see the art is changing with this? Like, do you think today we have more like
art and money has always been a problem, to my mind. And for me, what's wrong is to try to reproduce something which has been done. What's right for an artist is to do something which hasn't been done before, to my mind, or to do it in his own way. So for me, I prefer creating than copying. But that's just my thing.
So, do you think it's more art is not so much about the market in the first place, but just as something that happens after you create, right?
Art has first to be creation.
Cool.
But you had that in the 70s too. You had like big machines. It was not the time like with nothing, like marketing was not invented in the 80s. You had like huge marketing machine in the early 70s too, right? Or no? Like
Huge
the Monkees,
marketing.
the Monkees, those kind of band, they were like super promoted. Like the Jackson 5, they had like a cartoon. Kiss, when they started, they had like huge marketing tools.
Yeah, you're right. But at that time, personally, I was on a different thing. And for me, this was the enemy.
And what do you think about people saying that the Sex Pistols were made of?
Don't you agree?
So I have a question. So Alain, what's next? What's your mission now?
Well, you know, the thing I've learned in the last 3 years is to work with an artist and start to learn how to make concerts in 100 capacity, which I think is cool after having opened the Stade de France with the Rolling Stones after the World Cup in '98. I think it's more important when you've been at a high level to more understand how the thing is made. And after, when I stopped my last partnership, I went for 5 years with no office, no secretary, and I did everything on my own. And I just happened on that year to have David Bowie on the road.
You
Coles on
told
the
me
road.
like you had two people doing a huge...
No, well, we had at that time, on that year, we had Genesis reforming. And originally it wasn't planned to be a stadium. But by the time we went on sale, it was going to be a stadium show, and we had, in fact, 3 stadiums with them. And I was in a different kind of state of mind, and I thought, let's try to do it alone. So I did it just with my production man. We did everything, you know, the marketing, all the logistics, everything, and just started taking teams just when we went on the last 3 weeks, just as an exercise to see every level of a production, to be able to analyze everything. And I think you can understand things in a better way if you see the whole proceeding of everything. And that's what I'm interested in, you know, just see this went wrong, why? So let's try to do this way. Is it working? No, it's not. Let's try this way. Is it working? No, it's not. Okay, let's do something else, you know, but I try to do things my own way. That's the thing I like to do as far as I'll be alive, personally, because that's my reason to live. So I just tried to do, well, to surprise myself also. I think it's important, like I think anybody in this room would like to be surprised by what he does in his private life, in his professional life. For me, it's a reason to live.
Wow, that's great. More questions? No one?
We have been discussing about audience who prefer to listen to the old bands and listen to the hits. There is not much space now for even for famous bands to play their new songs. Some people say the classic rock is killing rock itself, rock. So I would like to know what you think about that. Do you think that bands will still make it big and will still be rich and famous? Or do you think that now rock bands are not going to be millionaires anymore. We are in a different time.
Nobody's new anymore. It's copying, and there's only a bunch of millionaires playing around. There's no more new stuff. I think she said that.
No, I think there is lots of new stuff. It's difficult because of, to my mind, because there are too many new authors also. It's difficult because at the time, as I was saying, we were waiting for the release of an album. Now, we're not waiting. We're just stuffed with so many things. The thing is just to choose what you want or to discover something right in the corner when you don't have time. I was saying earlier on, I used to look at everything on the vinyl. Now, who is watching what's on the cover? Who is listening to the music and not doing anything while he's listening to the music? The consumption is totally different. So everything is different because of this. And also there is a thing very important, is that when I started, life wasn't expensive. There wasn't money involved. It was easy to find a job. If you didn't work for a couple of months, it wasn't costing you a fortune. So I think now it's a different thing because lots of new acts do the thing in their own flat, send it on the web, and most of them become very alone with millions of people around them. I think it's very important that all this thing is also related to something live, and that's a very difficult bit to achieve because how can you play, how can you be noticed in the middle of, I don't know how many releases, digital or physical per week in any country, and that's the most difficult thing. So the thing I'm saying to all the new artists is it's more and more important to be very singular, to be very different, to be able to be identified very quick, because people have too much solicitation, they're asked for too many things, and whatever you do every day is never going to be more than 24 hours, and you cannot listen to everything. You cannot discover everything, because now it's too much. At the time, we had time, we were waiting. There wasn't all this communication thing around. So I think maybe life is more difficult for artists now because they've seen what happened before and they want to go for the same kind of game. But the game is different. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. É isso? Tem uma pergunta lá?
É mais uma curiosidade. Eu queria saber o que você conhece do mercado da música aqui no Brasil, o que você acha da nova música brasileira. Enfim, você, essa trajetória, tantos anos aí trabalhando com música. Queria ver que você falasse um pouco o que você entende e o que você tem acompanhado da música brasileira. O que você acha do nosso mercado aqui no Brasil?
I don't know it much. I've been involved in the old years. I did the first concert in France, for instance, with Javan. I worked with Gilberto Gil 30 years ago, with Georgia Band, with João Gilberto a few years ago, but just as a kind of in-between. What I've discovered lately is mainly through my relationship with Fefe and what we've done with Emicida, discovering Emicida, or people like Lucas Santana, with whom we're doing featurings and who take us to their world and who show us things which are really interesting. So I don't have the real angle because for me that's something quite new. This market, the chat before was quite interesting about what happened in Brazilian music for the last 20 years in France. Why? 20 years ago, there were lots of Brazilian acts making it in France, and not for 20 years after. Why nothing happened? And for me, the answer Sorry to go to the previous one. But for me, the answer is very simple. Is most of the Brazilian acts just came in France in summer for the jazz festivals to the Brazilian nights. And that was a kind of, to my mind, a kind of ghetto. And they didn't work outside of this period because they didn't get the money. And as they didn't get the money, and they had money elsewhere, they didn't care. They didn't bother. They didn't take the time to go on the road a lot. When it was costing them money, they didn't go. And that's why what happened, the market changed. And suddenly, instead of being Brazilian music, they became a part of world music. And that's a different thing. And that's a market which is to be fought for, you know. Now that I see, I've got the feeling with, when I see Emicida or Lucas and a few others in the 40 meetings I had in the last 48 hours, I see there is a new scene with people who want to go and fight, who want to go outside their country because it's too small, although it's a big country. But they want to go, the first thing is to go out, break the frontiers, which is right, because with internet, it's normal. And with the music, it's normal. You don't have frontiers with the music. The frontiers have been put by people selling it, not by, the music has never been, there's never been a wall between two artists, between people and artists, to my mind. So there is a work to be done, and that's interesting to watch, and to participate to also.
Okay. So we still have time, or? Não sei, gente. Vocês querem encerrar? Alguém quer fazer mais uma pergunta?
Não, vou falar. Aqui, ó. O que é interessante falar também é que a música francesa na França, na Virgínia e tudo, sabe? Quando a gente estava lá, né, Bru? Brasileira. O que eu falei? Francesa? Ah, desculpa. A música brasileira tinha um espaço que era... não era world music, né? Tinha um espaço da música brasileira. Isso a gente sempre ficou muito feliz, porque a gente tinha uma gravadora lá, lançava... os brasileiros, né, o Lenine, o Chico César, a Fernanda, entre tantos outros, Karnak. E isso foi uma batalha que a gente realmente tentou levar e a gente conseguiu. Tinha na FNAC, na Virgínia, tinha um rayon, né, um espaço para o Brasil.
E hoje em dia não tem mais, eu acho.
Não tem mais, né, Bru? Então, isso é muito importante. O trabalho dos independentes, aqui ou lá fora, ele é muito forte, porque ele dá importância ao nicho, né? Ele faz com que esse nicho saia da mistura, do todo, né? Porque tem muita oferta, hoje mais ainda, né?
E foi interessante o que o Alain falou sobre o que o artista brasileiro ia meio de férias nesses festivais e voltava. Nunca queria se estabelecer lá ou fazer show. Ele tinha uma noite especial no festival, dormia em um hotel maravilhoso, recebia um cachê muito bom, tocava no festival e voltava. Isso começou a se diluir. No final, 20 anos depois, não tem mais ninguém.
Não, e também o cachê para o brasileiro, até um certo tempo, era interessante ir para a Europa, ganhar em libras, em um dinheiro que não era nosso. Mas hoje não é mais. Hoje, muitas vezes, você trabalha com artistas, André, você sabe disso. Um artista brasileiro, ele quer fazer show aqui, é aqui onde ele ganha. Ele vai lá para a Europa, não tem uma estratégia de trabalho de exportação, porque aqui ele já ganha muito, então lá ele vai ter que fazer um esforço e com menos equipe, técnicos. Então, é um outro momento também, né?
E representeria um ponto de vista
Yeah, but also, you know, most of the tours of the artists you've been talking about were in cultural centers or in festivals. And to my mind, there is then a limit to development. That's why I think Bruno knows. That's why, for instance, Lenin wanted at one point to change promoter because he wanted to go to the real audience, to see the thing, you know, to compete with other artists in the right way, not just having a bunch of dates with people who just came like this and who didn't buy that many records also.
Então, eu acho que é isso, gente. Não? Eu acho que... Obrigado pela presença. Obrigado por tudo. Merci, Alain. Merci.